Well, hello, everybody. I'm Scott Connell. You're the first update here on this storm that's coming in, and give folks a couple of seconds to jump in here. But we're on 5+ this evening, also on YouTube, and we're streaming on the KSDK Facebook page. And of course, Clarissa's here. She's monitoring that Facebook page and YouTube for any questions you all have. We'll kind of go through everything, and I do want to, at the end, I'm going to pop off and kind of go in, and we're going to look at a couple of things, make it a little more interesting talking about this storm. And I'll show you some of the raw snowfall data that's out of the models and why we're not buying. You're seeing stuff all over social media with, 15 inches of snow and a foot of snow. And, in all honesty, that almost may be what falls, but it's not what's going to accumulate because it's a little bit too warm and the snow is a really heavy, wet snow. So in a traditional 10-to-1 ratio, yeah, that would be what we'd be looking at. If we had really cold air, we'd have problems, but, these temperatures, they just haven't been all that cold. And so this is going to be a heavy, wet snow. The kids are going to get a snow day in most cases, we think, on Wednesday. And it is going to be one where they can go out and they can play, and it's not going to be overly cold, and it's good snowman making snow. So we still have the winter storm watch over in Flora and Mount Vernon. That hasn't been upgraded yet. But as you look here, most of the area is under a winter storm warning at this point. This will go from tomorrow evening on into Wednesday. Probably ends by lunchtime on Wednesday, although they've kept it going at least through 9 o'clock, but they can easily cancel it. They go up farther north, Jersey, Greene, Calhoun counties in Illinois, and then back into Lincoln and Pike counties in Missouri. That's a winter weather advisory. So that's where the least amount of snow will fall. Probably 2 to 3 inches up that way. As we get closer to the metro area, you're getting into that 3, 4, maybe 5 inches. And as you go east and south of St. Louis, what we're really thinking is this is going to be the focus, especially here in the Ozarks, for some pockets where there's maybe 8 or 9 inches of snow. But again, it's heavy, wet snow. So once you get past the 4th or 5th inch of snow, it starts compacting and weighting itself down. And so some of that's going to get compacted. And the fact that it's happening with temperatures right around freezing is also going to be an overall good thing for the road crews to be able to manage this particular storm a little better than some of the storms we've seen. Now, if you're flying out of Lambert through the day tomorrow, there are no problems locally weather-wise. Tomorrow evening, though, we start to see the rain push in. But if you're flying, say, down to Oklahoma or heading out to New Mexico, this is a pretty big storm system, and it is going to impact those areas. So we've been watching these disturbances drop in from the Pacific, and the one that dropped in over the weekend and has now made its way down here into portions of Arizona, New Mexico, right along the border with Mexico. We've added the energy in there. That's all that red. This is a very tight upper level system, so there's a lot of energy there. It's kind of closed off from the main jet stream, and it's going to basically come on out through the plains and pass by to our south. Now, under normal circumstances, when you get a chunk of energy that's like this, it's spinning, we usually get a pretty decent sized system that comes through the St. Louis area. We think that's going to be the case as well this go round. The problem is as we've said, even when we were back in October and November talking about the winter weather outlook, it's all about the track of the storm and if cold air is available. So this is a great track in general for us to have a major winter storm in St. Louis. And this isn't going to be any poo-poo storm. This is going to be a pretty decent storm, but it would be a lot worse if we had the colder air in place. Bad enough as it is, look at the warnings here. They stretch all the way from New Mexico all the way into Illinois. Watches go all the way up towards Cleveland. So you've got 1,500 miles here, a little more than that, of winter storm alerts because of this storm system. So on the broader scale here, it's going to be sliding through, and this is going into midnight tomorrow night. We'll show you several different versions of this so you can kind of pick out your locale and pinpoint it here. This is the model output. This is one of the models we're using, high resolution model, updates about every 3 hours or so. And these darker blues, as you see the shading in here, this is where the heaviest snow is going to be, just east and south of St. Louis. But some of those heavier snow bands do kind of flirt with the metro area. Now, where it's a little bit warmer you end up with mainly rain, and that's right along the Mississippi River and then going up towards Paducah, although they may see a little bit of snow towards the end. Here we are at 6 a.m. Wednesday morning, still have the darker blues, but again, it's right where that transition is going from snow to rain, where you end up usually with the heaviest focus and axis of literally the amount of liquid coming out of the sky. And in this case, it would be heavy snow from Perryville over towards Mount Vernon and Flora. Eventually, as we go towards 9 o'clock, that heavier band of snow is shifting away, and we're getting into more lighter snow and snow showers. And because of that, we think the impacts are going to be, by lunchtime on Wednesday, easing just a little bit. So again, the winter storm warning is in effect for the St. Louis area. So here's what we're looking at. Heavy, wet snow. The timing on this is really focused after midnight on Tuesday, probably a little sooner than that down in the Ozarks along 44. But your greatest travel troubles are going to be in the hours after midnight going into Wednesday morning. And the Ozarks will definitely see the heaviest snow out of this, but the metro area could see some decent amounts as well. So here's the broader picture with this system pulling out, and you can see how it just grabs hold of the moisture from the Gulf of Mexico and just literally, you see the rain and snow explode across the middle part of the country. Severe weather is potentially a big factor too, right along the Gulf Coast, heading from tomorrow into Wednesday. So here we are. This is at midnight Wednesday. We're in that rain-snow mix in St. Louis with really heavy snow here over the Ozarks, back to Branson, back down into northwest portions of Arkansas. Now, we're getting a little bit closer here with our Weather First Futurecast, and this is showing you the expected air temperatures along with the precip. 6 o'clock. Tuesday night, still around 40, 42 degrees. You know, we're not going to get the sunshine tomorrow that we saw Monday today, but we are going to still be in the mid-40s for highs. Now, once it starts raining, and in St. Louis, it looks like around 9 o'clock, some light rain will start to push in. We'll see those temperatures come down a little bit. Notice what they do down in Potosi and Farmington. You're making that switch 9, 10 o'clock towards wet snow already, and it drops to 33 degrees. That's what's going to happen around midnight to 1 o'clock or so in St. Louis. Temperatures are going to hug the freezing point as we go through the early morning hours pre-dawn Wednesday. And again, you got a good shot at seeing this here. Where the darker blues are, those darker blue bands, probably an inch an hour snowfall rates. And, you know, it would be, if it were more traditional, it would be probably closer to 2 inches an hour on your snowfall rates. But because this is such a heavy, wet snow, again, you know, you've got that issue. It's going to compact. You're going to deal with this while it's coming down. The road crews are going to be limited in what they can do. It's coming down faster than it can melt. But again, as we head in the hours after the rush hour, we start to see those darker blue bands shifting east of St. Louis and kind of leaving us with just snow showers by lunchtime into the afternoon. Look where our temperatures are all across the area. Everybody's back into the mid-30s. We're above freezing. So I want to show you this. And you saw our hand-drawn map that we did a few minutes ago. This is one of the computer models. And your heaviest snow band, they're all fairly consistent. In fact, you know, Clarissa, I know you're probably getting a few comments from folks here and there, and we'll check in a minute. But we're going to do a little thing here where we're just going to kind of switch, and I'm going to pull up the different models so, you know, everybody can kind of see what we look at. This is the one based on what we just looked at, which is the IBM graph model. So this is kind of a special model that we get from the weather company who provides us with our data. So that's what their model looks like. You've heard us talk about the European model. Kind of looks similar, you know. We still have the heaviest snow band to the south of St. Louis. How about the American model? So if we plot on the American model here, again, south and east of St. Louis where the heaviest snow band is. We're really in the same kind of space here, just among all of them, where the heaviest snow band seems to slide in and across the area pretty much as, you know, as we're forecasting it here at this point. So, but the thing we did is we kind of tweaked those numbers just a little bit and kind of tweaked the maps to make them appear more of what we really truly think is going to happen. So again, I think this is one that I updated here just a few minutes ago and brings us back to the map that we'll show you what our forecast really is. And, you know, if this wasn't a wet snow, we'd probably be looking at 6 to 10 inches in St. Louis. Because it's a wet snow, we're probably looking at 3 to 5, maybe 6 Metro East down towards Arnold. But once you get into southern Jefferson County, southern Franklin County, and going down into the Ozarks, this hilly terrain down here, you're easily going to get 5 or 6 inches in a lot of cases. And in some cases, maybe 8, 9, maybe even 10 inches of snow. But it will compact pretty quickly, and with temperatures above freezing, then again, you're basically looking at, you know, some melting going on. We do think travel will be a little more difficult to the south of St. Louis through our hilly terrain here going through the eastern Ozarks. You know, the Highway 8 going out from Potosi to Steelville, that's probably going to be dealt with reasonably quickly by MoDOT, but all of those lettered routes down in Washington County, Crawford County, Iron, Reynolds, Madison, St. Francis, St. Genevieve County, they're going to be a little slower to get to. And it's also going to be such a wet snow, it takes a little longer to plow, which also brings us to, you know, you taking care of yourself. If you're going to be shoveling this, leave that to the younger kids because it is heavy snow and it will, you know, cause some heart issues for some folks if you're not used to this kind of stuff. So we're talking temperatures tonight, dropping into the 20s. A few clouds are going to roll in. For tomorrow, the clouds keep increasing. We're dry during the day. In the evening hours, we will start to see our rain increase and then eventually a switch to snow. For St. Louis, the precip probably doesn't start until about 9 o'clock, and then it'll continue, you know, until it winds down on Wednesday. The rain lasts maybe 2 to 3 hours, then we go over to the wet snow and we get the heavy wet snow. So that brings us to our storm alert Wednesday. So your weather first storm alert is for Wednesday, especially during the morning. That's when the heavy wet snow is going to fall around the St. Louis area. And, you know, those temperatures, again, right around freezing. Yeah, that complicates things for the road crews, but you're still in the mid-30s for the afternoon high. And once the snow lets up, with ground temperatures that are right now around 40 or so, just don't see it, you know, not being able to get cleaned up on the main thoroughfares in the metro pretty quickly. Thursday, a lot of clouds and chilly. In fact, there's not much sunshine for the rest of the week. We've got another little system Saturday night, and Sunday might give us a little light rain or snow. That one won't have near the impact that this one has. And by the beginning of next week, temperatures will ramp back down. So, Clarissa, anybody having any comments? All right.
6 inches of snow over an 18-hour period. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah, four to. What did he say? 4 to. Okay, yeah, 4 to 6 inches over an 18-hour period or something. But you know, here's the thing. It's such a wet snow. It is happening. It is going to happen pretty quickly. And we've got your storm timeline there on the screen and the impacts. You know, it's just such a wet snow while it's coming down, especially, you know, pre-dawn on Wednesday morning and through the Wednesday morning rush hour. If you're under one of those heavier snow bands where you're getting an inch an hour, you know, you're not going to be able to do much with that. It can't melt that fast. And what the snow will effectively do is actually lower the air temperatures to right around freezing. So, you know, it's not going to be the worst storm ever. It's actually going to be, I think it's going to be a really photogenic storm. I mean, that sounds crazy, but this is kind of that wet snow that sticks to everything. And I think, you know, there's going to be some great opportunities if you don't have to get out and drive in the poor road conditions Wednesday morning to just get out and, you know, savor the beauty of the snow because it's not brutally cold. Remember, just before Christmas, you know, we were down below zero and it was just brutally cold. That's not this kind of snow. This is a heavy, wet snow. You know, the kids can get out there and play in the yard and play and make a snowman, whatever, and it's not too bad, you know, with temperatures that are going to be, you know, in the mid-30s. That's not bad.
So you don't think school will be canceled?
I do think school's going to be canceled for a lot of places, especially down to the south of St. Louis, because they can't, it's happening during the time when you would have buses going out. I think later in the day, things are going to be a lot better for most of us. But I do think it, you know, travel's going to be hard Wednesday morning because your temperatures are near freezing and right here, you've got the heavy snow still continuing. So that combination, it just can't melt. And MoDOT can't do much. IDOT can't do much. When it's coming down that hard, there's no pre-treating with this because it's rain at the onset, and then it goes over to snow. But again, your roads are going to get slushy first, and then once we get into those heavier bands of snow, probably southwest of St. Louis between midnight and 3 a.m. in the metro area or closer to the metro, coming up 44, you're talking more like 2 to 6 o'clock when those heavier bands come in. That's when the road conditions really go south. And so I think we're looking at, this overnight period into Wednesday about 10 o'clock really is going to be our biggest problem as we head through this particular storm. So, the track really hasn't changed a whole lot. And, the accumulation forecast, we think there could be some isolated higher amounts, but because it's such a wet snow, it just doesn't look like, it's able to pile up like a dry, fluffy snow would be. So how folks doing out there? Any good questions?
We answered the question so far.
Okay.
Eric commented the weather patterns have really changed in this region in the past 2 years, where snow melts faster.
Yeah, we haven't had a lot of really cold air, Eric. To be honest, temperatures have generally been above average for our winters. Now, a couple of years ago, we had a really cold February, and this year our only actual cold was right before Christmas, and then the few days after Christmas, and then this whole month we haven't had measurable snow yet officially in St. Louis. I know we had a little dusting yesterday in places, maybe a ½ inch in a few places, but it's kind of been a dud.
Melissa asked, is this sledding snow?
Yeah, I think it's sledding snow, but I would say that above and beyond sledding snow, it's probably, I'm going to say more of the snowball kind of snow and the snowman making kind of snow. And the reason I say that is because sledding, it is a little wet, and sometimes it's, the drier snow does better with the sleds, I think. So, and who's that?
Nadia asked how much accumulation?
All right, so here I pop this up again. And, the heaviest snow bands are going to be down here. I really think the Ozarks, the hilly terrain here coming out of the Ozarks, that elevation is going to help with the snow to the south and southwest of St. Louis. So Centerville, Lesterville, Viburnum, over to Ironton, Annapolis, Fredericktown, Farmington, even St. Genevieve, heading up 55, heading down 67 here. Once you get into central and southern portions of Jefferson County, down towards Grubbville, heading back towards Sullivan and Cuba, this is where we're thinking, maybe 5 or 6 inches isn't out of the question, and perhaps some spots down here are going to end up with that 8-inch or more amount. Now, again, it's a heavy, wet snow, so it tends to compress a little bit, and we're reducing, there's a big discrepancy right now if you were to look at all the computer models. And what we try to do is we have, the American model has the operational model. When we showed you the snowfall forecast a minute ago, that's what it is. It says you're going to get 6 inches, that's what it is. But there's 30 other versions of that run, and each one of those versions gives you a different total. Some may be higher, some may be lower, and then you kind of look and see, okay, which ones are the oddballs out? We just toss those, and we're going to focus on these, and then becomes a more realistic. And that happens with the American model, the European model, the Canadian model, and then we have all of our higher resolution models, and there's versions of those that run as well, and we're now into that time frame. The 1 to 3 days where we start narrowing stuff down, we're in that time frame right now. So that's why we're able to really say this is where the heaviest snow band's going to be. Let's be honest, once we get a couple of inches of snow, no matter where you are around the St. Louis area, all bets are off on the roads, right? Whether it's 2 inches, whether it's 4 inches, the impacts are pretty much all the same while it's coming down. Once we get the snow to stop, Wednesday around lunchtime, all the heavy snow should have moved east, then conditions will start to improve because we're back into the mid-30s. But again, if you're heading over to Vandalia, you're probably looking at a good 4 or 5 inches of heavy, wet snow. And you don't want to shovel this if you have heart conditions or you're not really in great shape. The reality is some of it's going to melt and do so pretty quickly. So just, let it melt. Take the southern approach to snow clearing here, and, it'll go away in a few days. Probably not completely until Friday or Saturday, but we will see, conditions improve, certainly on the roads. And with the temperatures remaining at or above freezing through this, we do think the road crews will be able to throw some salt down, and we should be in pretty good shape with that.
Michael and Lynn asked, how about Defiance, Missouri and Waterloo, Illinois?
Okay, Defiance, Missouri and Waterloo, Illinois. Defiance, you're probably in that good 3 to 4 inch, maybe 5-inch band out here as you get into St. Charles County, so you're out in this area. I'd say it's probably around 4, give or take a little bit, but again, it's a very heavy, wet snow. Waterloo, you're more likely to be in those heavier bands of snow. And again, while those heavier bands are falling, no matter where you are, travel is going to be problematic. But we do think Waterloo, you're in that potential where 5, 6, 7, maybe 8 inches or so. That becomes more realistic for y'all over in Monroe County.
Sarah asked, elevations, why is it showing Crystal City in the 4 to 8 inch range? AccuWeather said 2.7 in. Why is AccuWeather always that far off from everybody else?
Well, and I think that's interesting. If you're using your apps, and we try to override our app as much as we can, and focus it, recalibrate it to what we think is going to be the case. Crystal City, I don't think you could get under 4 inches out of this, to be perfectly honest. But the apps are just taking raw data from a computer, and they're running a bunch of algorithms, and then they just spit out a number. So that would be why they're saying 2 inches. And in the scheme of things, you may get 5 or 6 inches in Crystal City, and by Wednesday afternoon at this time, it's down to 2 or 3 because some of the melting, ground temperature is still around 40, and it's such a heavy, wet snow, it compacts. So, that's part of the snow forecasting is the hardest thing we do, because you have to kind of figure out how wet the snow is going to be. And the atmosphere determines that. It doesn't take us long, we don't think, to get over to all snow for this particular scenario. And the reason is, we're looking up at the layers and the clouds above us, and you're pretty much below freezing all the way up there. It's just near the ground where temperatures are a little warmer. And as soon as we cool that off, then there's no problems for the snowflakes reaching the ground. So you're pretty much all snow after the first couple of 3 hours, we think. And sure, could there be a little mixture down to the south and southeast at times? Yeah, but we think the snow, usually when you get those intense bands like that, you get dynamic cooling, and you're able to keep it below freezing through the entire column, at least far enough below freezing to really keep up the snowflake growth. So that's why we're going on we're not as high as some forecasts, but we're certainly not throwing out the random snow maps that some of the people were showing on social media, which are just straight off the models, because those are way too high, way too high.
Do we need to worry about the roads freezing into Thursday? Samantha asked that.
I would think the roads freezing into Thursday, anything that's still wet on the roads, or anything that hasn't been treated, we're going down into the 20s Wednesday night. So you do have that potential where there'll be some problems on Thursday morning, especially in the areas where it's more rural and you have a lot more of these country roads, and you don't have a large number of road crews to deal with it. I think in the metro area, given the fact that we're, even the temperatures we're expecting Wednesday night into Thursday, we're going to see, the road crews be able to treat that pretty effectively. So I don't think it's a huge problem.
Timothy and Sarah are asking about, what about Pacific and in southern Jefferson County?
Yeah, I think as you get down into southern Jefferson County, and let's go out into Pacific, you're probably on the fringes of 4 to 6 in that ballpark. And again, if you get 6 versus 7, the impacts are all the same. We're all going to have problems Wednesday morning. Once you get down here towards Valley Mines and down towards Deloge, you're really going to see some heavier bands of snow in here. And it'll be 33, 32 degrees and pouring snow at the rate of an inch an hour. That could go for 4 or 5 hours. So, you could easily pick up 5 inches of snow in 5 or 6 hours here. But then, just because the temperatures are what they are and it's a wet snow, it'll start compacting. And when you go to measure it, it may not be as much as what actually fell, if that makes any sense. So the accumulation could be actually a little lower than the actual snow that falls if we were able to measure it every hour going through. But that's your map that we have right now, and it really catches the flavor of everything. Heaviest snow band definitely off to the south and southeast of St. Louis, but we're on the fringes of it in the metro area, especially east and southeast.
Althea asks, what time should we expect the snow to start in St. Louis again?
In St. Louis metro areas, probably around midnight tomorrow night, we'll make the switch. So the rain arrives in St. Louis, let's say 9 to midnight, and then we'll make that switch over. So, yes, and yeah, what kind of quality of snow, Sarah's asking. It is going to be good snowman snow. Sledding is, sledding's one of those things where it can almost be too wet. But it will be good for the kids to be able to go. I mean, it's going to be in the mid-30s. So
How many inches do we have in the St. Louis?
we're expecting anywhere from 3 to 5, maybe a few spots on the southern and eastern metro, on the southern parts of 270 and east of 255. They might end up with, you might end up with a 6-inch here or there. But it's going to be a heavy, wet snow. So I think we're gonna get through it like we do all of our storms. They come, they go. We have a period where we're in a mess, and then it gets better. So just kind of leaving you with this, the overall storm timeline. Your biggest concerns after midnight here, coming from Tuesday night into the Wednesday morning rush hour. This is where we're going to have the biggest problems. By Wednesday afternoon, things are getting a little bit better. And, I think the snow will end probably around lunchtime, any accumulating snow for sure. And then we should be in pretty good shape for the road crews to get out there and get things taken care of. So, it's going to be a really pretty snow. It's going to stick to the trees. Don't think we're looking at power outages because we're still above freezing. And, even when the winds aren't all that strong anyway, they will pick up and become a little bit breezy. But I think it's really going to be a pretty snow as we head into early Wednesday. So get your cameras ready. We want to see your pictures, that's for sure. And we'll wrap it up for now. But, we'll probably be back here again tomorrow night to give you an update on what's on the radar tomorrow night and, update the timing just a little bit. I don't think the timing's going to change a whole lot going through the overnight hours tonight into tomorrow morning. We're pretty much locked in. So I think we're in good shape.